Rain drizzled down the windows of the penthouse as Jonathan Hale, the billionaire CEO of Hale Industries, stood in silence by the glass wall, staring at the sprawling city lights below. His face, normally cold and unreadable in the boardroom, softened when his eyes shifted to the wheelchair in the center of the room. There sat Lily, his 8-year-old daughter, her tiny hands curled into her lap, her legs thin, unmoving, lifeless since birth. She had never taken a single step in her life. Doctors from all over the world had given their verdict: congenital nerve damage, irreversible. She'll never walk, they had said, their tone clinical, almost detached, as though they were discussing a broken machine instead of a little girl with dreams. Lily never complained. She smiled for her father, laughed when she could, and hid her pain in the pages of her sketchbook where she drew herself running through fields of flowers. But Jonathan saw the truth, the quiet tears when she thought no one was watching, the way she turned away from the playground when other kids played tag. For a man who could buy anything, fix any problem with money, this was the one thing his billions could not change. That was until fate sent a stranger into their lives. Across town, in a small one-bedroom apartment, Ryan Carter, former Marine, single father, and part-time mechanic, sat at the edge of a worn couch, tying his daughter Emma's shoelaces before school. Ryan had seen war. He'd survived firefights, explosions, and sleepless nights in foreign deserts. But nothing had prepared him for the quiet battlefield of raising his little girl alone after losing his wife to cancer. He worked long hours, barely slept, but never complained. Emma was his world, and he'd do anything to protect her. That morning, their paths were about to cross in a way neither could have imagined. It started with a chance encounter. Jonathan's limousine broke down near Ryan's repair shop, a black, gleaming machine coughing steam into the cold morning air. The driver, frantic, knocked on Ryan's door. Ryan stepped out in grease-stained overalls, wiped his hands on a rag, and without hesitation began working on the car. While he worked, Lily sat quietly inside the limo, watching through the window. She noticed Emma waiting by the shop door, reading a worn-out comic book and giggling softly. Their eyes met, and in that small, curious smile, a silent friendship was born. When Ryan finished, Jonathan stepped out, ready to pay him generously. But before handing over the envelope of cash, Jonathan noticed Ryan's limp, a subtle favoring of his left leg from an old combat injury. Something in Jonathan's sharp mind clicked. "You were in the military?" he asked. Ryan nodded, modest as always. "Marine Corps. Served my time. Just fixing cars now." Jonathan didn't know it yet, but he had just met the man who would change his daughter's life forever. That evening, Jonathan called Ryan with a strange proposal. He wanted him to take a temporary job, personal driver in security for Lily. It wasn't just about protection. Jonathan had seen the way Lily had looked at Emma and the way Ryan had spoken with quiet strength. Maybe, just maybe, this was the man who could reach Lily in a way no one else had. Ryan was reluctant. He didn't know the first thing about caring for a child in Lily's condition. But when Jonathan doubled the pay and hinted at medical benefits that could help Emma's future, Ryan agreed. Within a week, Ryan and Emma were stepping into the polished marble halls of the Hale penthouse. At first, Lily was shy. She barely spoke, her eyes darting between Ryan and Emma. But Emma, with the innocence of a child, didn't see the wheelchair, she saw a new friend. She brought crayons, told stories about her school, and made Lily laugh so hard one day that she almost forgot she couldn't walk. Ryan noticed something the doctors hadn't. Lily's legs twitched slightly when she was excited. It was tiny, almost imperceptible, but to a trained Marine's eye, it was movement. Ryan began to research late at night, studying nerve rehabilitation and unconventional therapy methods. He didn't have the medical degree, but he had discipline, patience, and a refusal to give up traits forged in the battlefield. Slowly, he introduced small exercises disguised as games. Emma would challenge Lily to foot races while sitting down, tapping their toes under the table. Ryan would set up obstacle courses for their wheelchairs, making Lily use her legs slightly to maneuver. It was progress so subtle that Jonathan didn't notice at first. But Lily did, and so did Ryan. Still, there was resistance. One rainy evening, Jonathan walked in to find Ryan encouraging Lily to try standing while holding onto the railing. Jonathan's voice was sharp. "What are you doing?" The doctor said, but Ryan cut him off, eyes steady. Doctors aren't always right. I've seen men walk again after they were told they'd never move. Jonathan's jaw clenched, torn between hope and fear. The last thing he wanted was to give his daughter false hope. But Ryan wasn't promising miracles, he was promising effort. The turning point came during Emma's birthday party, held at the Hale estate. Kids ran across the yard, balloons floating in the summer breeze. Lily watched from her wheelchair, hands gripping the armrests. Ryan knelt beside her, speaking softly. One step at a time, Lily. Just one. She shook her head, fear in her eyes. What if I fall? Ryan smiled. Then I'll be right here to catch you. And for the first time in her life, Lily's feet pressed against the ground, her body trembling as she tried to rise. She didn't make it that day, not fully. But Jonathan, watching from a distance, felt something shift inside him. This Marine wasn't just teaching Lily to walk, he was teaching her to fight. And that was only the beginning. Chapter 2, The Impossible. Weeks turned into months. Every morning, Ryan arrived with a new challenge for Lily, balancing on one foot while holding Emma's hand, stretching her legs while listening to her favorite songs, even small games like kick the ball with a soft toy. Lily began to anticipate these sessions, her laughter echoing through the halls of the penthouse. Jonathan noticed she was eating more, sleeping better, her cheeks flushed with life instead of pale from inactivity. The change was undeniable. But not everyone believed. Jonathan's board of directors, powerful men and women who managed the empire alongside him, whispered that he was wasting time and money on a lost cause. Focus on the company, they said. You can't fix this. But Jonathan had seen enough to silence them. He was no longer the cold businessman, he was a father on a mission. One night, Ryan received a call from his old Marine buddy, now a specialist in experimental rehabilitation. There was a clinic 2 states away testing a new nerve stimulation therapy. It wasn't approved yet, and the chances of success were slim, but it was the most promising lead they had. Jonathan didn't hesitate, he chartered a jet, arranging for Lily, Ryan, and Emma to go. The first few sessions were brutal. Lily cried from the pain, gripping Ryan's hand until her knuckles turned white. More than once, she screamed, I can't. But Ryan's voice never wavered. Yes, you can. One more push. Emma cheered her on from the sidelines, holding up a sign she'd made, Lily the Brave. Slowly, the impossible began to happen. Lily's legs responded more each day. First a twitch, then a bend at the knee, then the faintest lift of her foot from the floor. The breakthrough came on a crisp autumn morning. Lily stood in the therapy room, her tiny frame trembling. Ryan stood in front of her, arms open. One step, he said. Her lips pressed together, eyes wide with determination. And then, she moved. Her foot lifted, wobbled, and landed forward. One step. Then another. By the third, she stumbled, and Ryan caught her, holding her tight as she sobbed into his shoulder. Jonathan, watching from the doorway, covered his mouth with his hand, tears streaming down his face. When they returned home, Jonathan organized a small gathering in the garden. Friends, family, even some of the doubting board members came. Lily sat in her wheelchair at the start of the garden path, Ryan beside her. Ready? He asked. She nodded. And in front of everyone, Lily stood. The crowd held its breath. Step by shaky step, she walked toward her father, falling into his arms as the garden erupted in applause. Jonathan whispered into her hair, You did it, baby. You really did it. In that moment, Jonathan realized money had never been the key, it was hope, persistence, and the right person to believe when no one else did. Ryan didn't just help Lily walk, he helped her live. And to everyone watching this story right now, remember this, sometimes the impossible is just something no one has tried yet. If this story touched your heart, subscribe to our channel for more powerful stories like this. Your support helps us share hope, courage, and inspiration with the world.